Want to be a hero in the Division 2? Well, one way to do it is to be a tank. And today I got the strongest tank support build for you. And it just got a buff in Season 3 as part of Project Resolve.
And if you don't know, now you know.
There's tons of roles you can assume in the Division 2, and it's really fun playing into those. So you got like DPS, you got DPS support, something like a sniper build, or ongoing directive, or even true patriot. And then you have healer builds, combat medics, which is something in between a healer and a DPS. You got pure tech builds, skill builds, you got hybrid builds, tank DPS, and of course what we're focusing on today, pure tank support builds. And it's not easy being a tank. Don't be fooled. Your job is to attract every bullet fired from the enemy. And you can't be at all places all at once. And so when your team is really spread out, they're making your job a lot harder. And so part of being a successful tank is having players on your team that know how to play with a tank. And so dividing and conquering is not the greatest strategy for a tank, because what you don't want to do is find yourself alone focusing on one NPC while your team is way over there or split across the battlefield. Because as a tank support build, you don't have the damage, but you have the defense. Your job is to attract all the bullets. And so it's not helpful for you to try to eliminate this one enemy with your slap and tickle damage. You have guys on your team that do a better job of killing than you do. So flip that enemy around, let your allies shoot them in the back. That's the objective with the tank build. So part of running a really good tank build is the bulwark shield. It's very, very strong. However, it's not invulnerable. And so the star of the show, really, when it comes to a solid tank build, is really going to be the Liberty pistol, this exotic D50. It does a really good job, and maybe the best job, of keeping your shield alive. But there's lots of tools to help and assist the shield as well that I have equipped to the build. But with the shield and all your tankiness, you're sort of still like, how would I describe it? Like one of those potato bugs where you got this hard exterior, but you're kind of squishy on the underbelly. And that's sort of the same thing with this. So behind that shield, even if you're running 2.1 million armor, and even with the world's greatest armor regen, the enemy can really kill you quite quickly. You don't have much time without your shield. So tank builds are really interesting. No matter how much armor and armor regen you have, you're still vulnerable. So it's really the shield. And so that's what I've learned when I'm playing into tank builds, is that it's all about the shield, and you want to lean into that more really than anything else. And if you didn't know, some of your attributes extend over to your shield, like protection from elites as an example.
Entering dog zone.
I'm running 4 pieces of Foundry Bulwark, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because the devs, as part of Project Resolve, buffed Foundry Bulwark. They buffed the main 4-piece talent, which is called Makeshift Repairs, and then they buffed the chest and the backpack talents. So let's take a look at all of that. So we have 10% total armor coming from 2 pieces, and then you get 1% armor regen, which is nice, and then 50% shield health, which is also nice. So a little to you and a little to your tough exterior. Okay, so Makeshift Repairs, really unique talent, very powerful. So whenever you or your shield take damage, so either or both at the same time, 20% of that amount is repaired to both over 10 seconds. That's really unique, right? So it's not like repair skills that you're getting off of your drone or anything like that. It's based on the amount of damage the enemy is putting out on you or your shield, which is a ton. So when you think about it, so when you got like 3 chungas wailing on your shield and half the army shooting at you, 25% of all of that damage is going back into your shield and your body armor. Crazy numbers. I can't even begin to calculate what that is, because they hit really hard. Remember, just think about how fast one enemy can wipe your 2 million armor, and you're getting 25% of that multiplied by however many enemies there are. And it's constantly refreshing and changing. Crazy figures there, especially for legendary. Explosive resistance is absolutely important. It is your greatest threat as a tank, not hazards, but explosive resistance. Because in legendary, there's a little bit of hazard. You get some stingers from chungas, but you'll heal through that really easy. It's not really a big deal. But that explosion, that stuff, those will shatter your shield. So the more explosive resistance you have for your build, the better you're gonna be off, the longer you're gonna last. You still can't have enough, I'll tell you. And then protection from elite, so that's for the hardest hitting enemies. You could also put like disrupt resistance if you wanted to. It's not really a big issue. But even repair skills will be a nice add there, and I'll show you why in a moment. So that 25% happening over 10 seconds, that's better than before. It used to be 20% over 15 seconds. So that's more regen per second you're getting now. So the chest talent, improved materials, increased makeshift repairs from 25% to 35%. So huge. That's an extra 10%. But before season 3, it was decreasing from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. But now we're getting 10% more repairs over that 10 seconds. That's even better. All right, let me flip to the backpack. So I have armor, explosive resistance, and more protection from elites. And then process refinery, this was changed. So now repairs speed from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. That's crazy. So before, it was increasing makeshift repairs from 20% over 10 seconds to 30% over 10 seconds. So according to the patch notes, it looks like they flipped the talents from the backpack to the chest. So this increase in repairs used to be on the backpack, and now it's better, and it's on the chest. That makes sense without confusing you too much there. Okay, so the gloves, I'm running armor, and then I have headshot damage here, and honestly, that's just because I don't have a better one, but explosive resistance would definitely be what I go for here. And then the holster, I have armor and explosive resistance. And then for the knees, I decided to go for Bellstone. So I wanted faster heals to my body there. So now we got 2% armor regen on this build on top of the makeshift repairs. And then I have hazard protection, and I don't have max armor. All right, and then the catharsis is such a good tool. There's a lot of good exotics for tank builds, and this is definitely one of them. So armor, incoming repairs, armor regen, protection from elites. So vicious cycle perfectly synergizes with makeshift repairs because it's also based off of incoming damage. And so when you receive damage, and this part is key, or when your shield receives damage, you're gaining stacks for this talent. And those stacks are gonna give you 30% weapon damage. And then when you reach that, it's gonna purge and give you really strong heals, which is 5% of your max armor for 10 seconds. That's crazy. So if you're standing in that pool, you're gonna get 50% of your armor back. Anyways, you'll see this constantly purging because in Legendary, your job is to attract every bullet, so you're taking so much damage. This is a really, really good mask and great piece for makeshift repairs. Those heals are invaluable for you and your shield. And then Sawyer's knee pads are quite good as well as an alternate because they keep you from being staggered. Now, staggering isn't a big problem for you overall, I want you to know. So even if you're taking explosives, it's not the stagger you're really worried about. But where this is valuable is when you need to pick up an ally, and sometimes they are just throwing every single explosive they can. There's been many times where I'm the last man standing, and so I'm literally attracting every explosive, and I can't pick up my allies because they keep staggering me and disrupting the process of getting up my allies. So then I have to go and hide, change my hive into a reviver hive, and then toss that out instead because that staggering will just disrupt you too much. So stand your ground allows you to take those explosives while picking up your allies, and that can be very useful. Otherwise, it does have explosive resistance, and you're not standing still too much, so you're not really going to benefit from the damage coming out of this, so keep that in mind. You might be thinking the Murakami knee pads are a good idea, but they're actually not as appealing as Bellstone because Bellstone puts that armor regen in the brand set bonus, where if you run the Murakamis, then you're going to get skill duration there instead, which you don't need. And so by running Bellstone instead of the Murakamis, you have 2 attributes to play with instead of just 1. So you can put hazard protection and explosive resistance, or explosive resistance and repair skills, or explosive resistance and headshot damage, whatever you're looking for. Uzina and Helagard are also good alternates if you want to push your armor up a little bit as well. That means you can take more damage. That also means your regen's going to be a little bit stronger. No real bad choices here. Go with what you want. So the Bulwark Shield's got an 18-second cooldown, almost 15 million in health here, and then really good active regeneration. This is a tier 6 shield. For the secondary skill, this might surprise you if you're not familiar with tank builds, but I'm running the Artificer Hive. So this is making that shield stronger, and it's healing that shield as well. See, there's a skill repair functionality, and you don't have to deploy this. It just has to be equipped. So you never have to drop the hive. Just keep it on your body. And every now and again, it's going to kick out a drone that will heal your skill. And that drone will also buff nearby ally skills too when you're within range. And then in order to get access to that, you need Technician. And that's why I'm running Technician. Also, the EMP grenades are quite handy against healing stations, which is sort of your job to take out, and the Warhounds. Also for Warhounds and tanks, the lefty is really nice. So when I hawk out that grenade, I make sure I have the lefty in hand. And so that way your allies can destroy it even faster, thanks thanks to the perfect sledgehammer talent coming off of that. And then I'm just running a standard assault rifle here. It's just the F2000. That brings us to the Liberty, really important exotic for tank builds. So one, a true tank build needs to run the Bulwark Shield, sadly. I wish you could run the Crusader or the Striker Shield, but those shields are designed to break. If the Bulwark Shield can break, those things can break way faster. And so you won't be a very good tank if you're running any other shield. Maybe in heroic, maybe, but in legendary content, no way, especially against the Tusk. So the Liberty's got a headshot damage, crit chance, and rate of fire, and also comes with weapon handling. Mine's got a little bit of expertise on it. That's because I use it also for headshot builds, believe it or not. It can one-shot chain kill on the right build. And then you have pistol damage and damage to targets out of cover by default. And then liberty or death. This is the part that really matters. So hits grant 2% weapon damage, stacking up to 30 times. So that's 60% weapon damage. That's really nice, but you're still gonna be really weak with that, trust me. It takes forever for you to kill an enemy. That's not your job. But the real job of this thing is that headshots will consume all your stacks, repairing your shield for 3% per stack. Basically, 100% in heals. And that's what's important. Because even though we have makeshift repairs and even though we have technician with the artificer hive, your shield is taking so much damage in legendary, so much that it can break. And that's why the Liberty is really important, because with a single shot, you can heal your shield all the way to the top, and you need it to be that fast. It's do or die. And you don't have to wait till the last minute, so you can constantly do this. You don't have to wait for the full 30 stacks, so you can go body, body, head, body, 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 whatever, and then throw in a headshot every now and again just to keep these spikes of heals coming into your shield. You're inadvertently healing your shield anyways, because you're probably accidentally squeezing in headshots as you're defending. Really important. Also, I have a video coming out showing you how to get the Liberty and how you can make it a passive project to continuously craft infinite amount of Liberties to add to your exotic component stockpile. So look out for that video coming soon. So your greatest vulnerability is going to be explosives. It's actually pretty impressive how they can destroy your shield so quickly. If you get hit with the wrong combination of damage, and it doesn't take much, like a couple of suicide drones, and while somebody's shooting at you, your shield is toast. Like that. It just can't heal fast enough. Think of explosive damage as burst damage, and makeshift repairs, no matter how strong it is, can't heal fast enough. 10 seconds, 5 seconds isn't fast enough, because that explosion, all that damage hits you at once, instantaneously. And makeshift repairs isn't instantaneous. Even though the Liberty can heal 90% of your shield back, it's still reactive, not instantaneous. So explosions are dangerous for your shield. They're your greatest threats. And for the suicide drone ladies, what you can do is get in their face as soon as possible, even before they deploy their drones, or even right after, and they'll kill themselves with their own suicide drones. So they'll blow themselves up. It's worth you dropping your shield and absorbing the explosions to your body instead of your shield. It really is worth it. Make that part of your strategy. When you see some explosives coming your way, you might want to drop that shield, take some damage to your body. You'll heal really quickly, and you have your shield to protect you while you're healing too. So yeah, your job's hard as a tank. One of the annoying things that can happen when you have a tank role on your team is that they're also blocking all your shots. So the idea is to get the enemies to focus on you, but maybe stand to the side a little bit so that your allies have a clear line of sight on the enemy that you're protecting them from. And if you can, if there's no enemies beyond, flip that enemy around so that the enemy's back is facing your allies. Whatever your strategy is, just be conscious of where your allies are so that you're not blocking their shots and annoying them too much. So what do I think about the updated Foundry gear set? Well, I'm not impressed. I don't feel any stronger than what it was before. I don't even notice the changes. It's been a while since I've run a Foundry build, but with the vulnerability in the shield and watching your armor get depleted so quickly, I can't say their changes are really game-changing. Do they help? I'm sure they do, but the elements that I have on the build, I feel like are doing more. You know, being the Liberty and the Catharsis as an example. But if I did notice anything, maybe I saw the armor regen on my body coming back faster than what I remember it. But as far as the shield goes, it is as invulnerable and vulnerable as it was before. So I'm not seeing any big changes to that front, but I would like to see some more explosive resistance to this shield, I gotta say. And so usually when you're running this, it's gonna be for raids and legendaries. And so it's basically your greatest threat is explosives. And Foundry doesn't really have a direct answer to that. You end up having to build it in. But if you wanna be the strongest tank in the game, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend anything other than Foundry. Do you have to run the chest piece in the backpack? No, not necessarily. As a matter of fact, there's some great alternates to the chest piece. You can run Perfect Vanguard and give your team bonus armor. That's probably a really good idea, and your team would really appreciate you for that. However, for this build showcase, I wanted to demonstrate what the strongest tank looks like and also evaluate the changes to the Foundry gear set. So if you definitely want to ensure you're on your feet, then the Foundry chest piece is probably your best option. Thank you for hanging out with me today. My name is TuxedoBandido, and this was another episode of The Division 2. If you found this video helpful, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss out on the fantastic experiences waiting for you in The Division 2. And if you like builds like this, check out the recommended build video I have here for you. If you have anything you want to see covered, be sure to let me know in the comments below. And thank you to all the channel members and donors who make everything possible. Tux Nation wouldn't be without you.
Follow me.
I get it.